I'm April Lovett.
And I'm Daryl Lovett.
And this is Success in Black and White,
the podcast
where our mission is to bridge the gap between racial boundaries.
Hey, everybody. We have another special guest for you, and I'm going to read his bio. Dr. Williams is a blogger, consultant, inspirational speaker, and authentic leadership advocate with a background in university career services. He has experiences providing comprehensive career services for students, alumni, and coordinated university-wide employer relations at UCF, FSU, and IRSC. He has presented at national, regional, and state conferences on career services, employer relations best practices, and authentic leadership. Dr. Williams also has expertise in staff development, event planning, policy development, and facilitation. His research interests are leadership and development, training, and employee engagement. He has a PhD in industrial organizational psychology, Master's of Arts in Counseling, Human Relations, and a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology. Outside interests are college football, reading, blogging, running, and traveling. Please stay tuned as we dive in with Dr. Williams.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Success in Black and White,
the podcast. We are back one more again. We are back one more again.
We are, and we have a guest with us tonight.
We are not alone.
Yep.
We always say it when we have guests. We love just talking to other people and not sitting here and talking. I mean, there's nothing wrong with talking to you, but we like to have other people engage in conversations with us and share their expertise and share their experiences with you all as well. So we have a very special guest with us. One of my mentors. I don't have many, but this is one of my mentors, someone that I can go to when I have something that, I need some feedback on, or if I just need some inspiration or encouragement. He always has the right thing for me at the right time. So Dr. Williams is with us. And as we go through, I'll probably call him by the name that I refer to him as is Calvin, but to introduce him to everyone here, Dr. Williams. So we'll let April start off with the first question that we have for you, and then we'll just kind of dive right in.
Sounds good to me. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for letting me come on.
We're excited to have you. And, we both know you from Florida State because you were at Florida State University working with us and while we were here, and people already heard that in your bio. But you did some really cool things while you were here, and you have been doing amazing things also since you left Florida State University. And so I want the audience to learn from you, what has been kind of your life journey and career progression, and why do you do what you do? Why are you passionate about it?
Thank you again. I guess my life journey, and I kind of start with a little history. Not everybody knows this, and I'm kind of proud of it because when I work with students, it gives me an extra edge with them. I'm probably the only person that with a PhD that flunked out of community college. I like to let that sit there because a lot of times students, they'll see me, I wear my suit, I have my tie, and it's like, hey, man, you don't understand anything about me. And I had to check them. It's like, well, I flunked out of community college. Did you do that? Okay. We want to talk about single parent. Got that covered. We want to talk about dad was in jail. Got that too. So my journey it's kind of fueled by I'm afraid to fail. So a lot of things that I do is because I know what failure could be, but I decided I didn't want that. Also, one of the things that kind of drives me to this day, and it's amazing as I get older, I still don't forget this. As a 17-year-old in high school in Jasper, Florida, I had a guidance counselor. When I went to get advice, I'm pretty smart. I did really well. And the only thing she gave me to do was, hey, why don't you go join the military? And it kind of upset me because friends that I had that didn't have the grades, she told them how to go and be things in the world, but all I got was join the military. fast forward, I did join the Air Force. I saw every country I wanted to see for free because the government paid for it. I've got 3 degrees that the Air Force paid for. I've never had a student loan. So when students come and talk to me about financial aid and student loans, I don't know how to help them because the military helped me get 3 degrees, the titles, and some of the things that I do. To answer your question, why do I do what I do? Again, I'm afraid to fail. My guidance counselor didn't do anything really for me. And at this age, I still remember that. So I always said, if I get in a position where I can help people, I'm going to do above and beyond. And it seems to work and people come back to me. But my purpose is to help folks. And you may ask me later, I may jump ahead, but I had a friend who mentors me, and she asked me, she was on a presentation and she wanted to highlight me. And she's like, Calvin, what's your why? And I didn't know what that meant. So she explained it to me, the things that why you get up and do what you do. So my why, and I tell folks when I do presentations, is to leave everyone I talk to better than when I met them. That's the simple thing. So even if you don't want me to mentor you, I mentor you. So that's part of my journey and kind of why I do what I do. And I'll keep doing it until it's not fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
man,
awesome.
I know.
And he means that too. I'll tell y'all, because I reached out to him, and I'm very like, and April knows this about me, like reaching out to people and like saying, hey, do you mind like mentoring me or being a mentor or kind of giving advice? Like, I'm not good at that. That's not something that I learned growing up. What I learned growing up is like, you go out there and you figure it out and you work hard and you fight and you get it. So for me, it's tough for me to go to someone and confidently say, hey, like, I don't know it all. I don't have it all. I need a different perspective. Can you mentor me and help me with some of the things that I'm trying to work through? And I did that. And what's so funny is when we sat down at the coffee shop and what I was expecting from the conversation was more of like reassurance. And as we were talking through, you were like, I don't know about that. And I was just like, what? Like, I invested a lot into, what we had going on. And that's one of the things where, like you just said, leave it better than it was when you first meet the person. And that was one of the things that I appreciate because, like, for me, like when I'm asking, it's more so for reassurance, and you don't do that. You're like, let me tell you what I think about this, and here's some recommendations on how it can be better. And I was just like, wait a minute, time out. All you supposed to do is just nod and be like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, go for it.
And that's one of the things is like, if that's what you're looking for, that's not me. And, one of my favorite sayings by Colin Powell, if you and I agree on everything, one of us is redundant. So if you ask me a question, I probably should give you something that I actually believe. But yeah, I remember that conversation because you looked at me like,
yeah.
You asked me for my advice, and this is what I have for you. But I think it worked out pretty well for you, didn't it?
It did, yes. Yes,
and
it
for
did.
Me. So
It did.
I want to know, so we have a wide variety of people who listen to this podcast. And it just struck me that you said you've had all of the experiences. So community college, and you say you failed out of community college. Mm-hmm. You've had Air Force, you've been military, you have been professional life. You're also like entrepreneur, consultant, like you've just experienced it all. But I really want to dig in a little bit, if you don't mind talking about it, into the community college aspect, because I think that people get very afraid that they're going to fail and not come back from a failure. So do you mind telling us a little bit about how you came back from that?
I would say it's probably one of the best things that happened because, everybody, you come out, I'm the smartest in the world. And but I will say gap year was not a thing back on those days. And I was like, hey, I want to take off. And I was like, no, you're going to school. So I went begrudgingly. And I think I didn't ask because I didn't want to be there. So I think the concept of moving forward after that failure was I just had to find myself. at that point, I knew I didn't want to be there. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And the funniest story is I didn't even think I wanted to join the military. I talked to the guidance counselor, but since we're family and we're talking, and I grew up in a little town, Jasper, Florida, and y'all may not have heard, but we used to have an IGA. It was a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And I bagged groceries. I stocked groceries there, and I was failing out of community college. And I kid you not, my manager came to me and said, "Hey, man, you're doing a great job here. If you keep this up, next 2-3 years, you'll be assistant manager." And I snapped. I was like, "There's no way I'm going to be assistant manager in Jasper, Florida in 3 years." And he's like, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, I quit. I joined the Air Force. I had never talked to a recruiter yet. I ran from him. So I had to chase down the Air Force recruiter so he could recruit me. And I wanted to leave that next week. And he couldn't get me out till February. So my bounce back was, I saw myself as a community college failure, going to be an assistant manager at an IGA in Jasper, Florida. And I said, there got to be more to life than that. So that motivated me to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And from there, I would say Air Force is not for everyone, but for me, it gave me discipline. It gave me structure, put money in my pocket. I got to travel. I got away from my hometown. And I've been on this journey. I go back and visit my mom at least once a month, but I've never gone back. And I think if you look at it, that's my biggest thing is like, if I had to go back, something wrong happened. So the longer I stay out here in the world, the more I know things are going right. So that's kind of how I judge it. But the community college failure kind of led me, because I got more hours at the grocery store. So he started like, maybe he wants to stick around. It's like, no, I had to fail community college. So I knew to get out of town. And I've been gone ever since.
Wow.
That's powerful.
That is.
I know.
So let's do this. We're going to transition a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all great information, but I have a question. I want to know, when you are working with students and you're also consulting and giving speeches and talking to different people, your area expertise, authentic leadership and human resource and things like that. For those people that are listening, what are some key tips that you would share for any of those people who are looking for any type of guidance in those areas?
If I can, I will go with the speaking first, because I left FSU and I kind of started my own little consultancy, and I still have it. Only thing that happened to me is COVID slowed a lot of those in-person things down. And when I wrote my 2021 goals, I'm going to relaunch that either through Zoom or if we start coming back in person. But when I stand in front of a group, when I do a presentation, even for school, but when I do the consulting, my goal is it's an old Eric B. and Rakim song from the 80s, Move the Crowd. My job when I stand in front of people, especially if you're going to pay me, is to give you something that you can remember, give you something you're going to think about. I don't do the work for you. I'll throw some things out. They kind of like when you and I were working, it's like, yeah, I'm not here just to say yes, but I am here to train you, move the crowd, and give you some things to think about. So that comes through from an authentic presence, a willingness to kind of dive into it. I think I also have an intuitive side where I can feed off of that crowd. So I joke, I can read your thought bubble. So a lot of times when we sit down, I can see what you're thinking. You may not know it, but I can do that with the crowds. I know when they have a question. So that's a side of it. Now with the authentic leadership, I think the biggest thing that folks want in a leader is someone who will listen. So if I understood your question, probably the biggest thing about being a leader is sometimes you just got to shut up and listen. And again, I said with the redundancy with Colin Powell is I don't have to take everything that you bring to me in the work environment, but I have to listen to everything you say. It's the simplest thing. And what I did in my research, that's called that's called balanced processing. The thing that gives people job satisfaction, my research shows, is a supervisor, a leader who's willing to listen. It's not a leader who's going to take everything you say and do it. And I think from a direct report standpoint, some people misinterpret that, because if I say no, it's not personal. We're not going to do that. But you have to explain that a little bit more, not just for millennials, but for anyone today. No doesn't necessarily mean no. It's no, and this is why we can't do it. It could be budget. It could be the president of the school told me I'm not going to do it. So why would I'm not going on that limb. So I think with that, listening, understanding what people want, because everybody has been that direct report who had a supervisor. Some people forget where they came from, and they kind of do things to people because it happened to them. I don't see that. If it wasn't right when I was one seat down, it's not right because I'm in that seat. But as a leader, you still have to have the concept. You maybe have to explain it. And I think a lot of times people don't want to have to explain. And when somebody asks why, it's not personal. Maybe they just want to know what's going on. Or maybe you need to train them. So when I hear people say, these millennials, no, it's us. Why means you need to explain it better. And it's not a personal attack. If you can't explain it, you probably shouldn't lead people anywhere.
I was like, can I clap? Or I don't.
That was all good.
That preach, because I think that millennials get a bad rap for they want details. And I think that I just want to applaud. I don't know if I can stand up and clap.
Yeah.
Well, you can, but and I know you're gonna ask me, but can I jump in for the details? There's a reason why they want the details. And when I explain it to folks my age, or it's our issue. And I won't put you on the spot, but your kids today, you probably say, hey, what do you want to eat today? What movie do you want to watch? Where do you want to go? That's perfectly fine. But then when you put your kids into the work environment, they've been used to being part of adult decisions. So now I'm the leader and I just tell you what to do. That's not how they were raised. Oh. So you have to understand that it's not a problem, but your kids are raised differently than you were. In some instances, I was told eat what we put on the table. That's not what happens now. I didn't go to the grocery store with my mom, but imagine you got millennials who've been doing this for the last 18 years. They go to school, they have input, and they go into the workplace, and I say, sit there and color. They're going to have issues. So that's us. But I have to educate folks my age and at my level that it's not their fault. This is how they were raised. And when they say why, it's because they were told why their entire lives. Why stop now?
Yeah. I mean, we are very intentional with our kids, even of explaining the reasoning behind. We don't just say no, just because I said so. It's no, that could be dangerous, or no, this is a healthy thing because we want to educate them.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, that is.
And it makes perfect sense. But a lot of times people in the workforce are like, these kids. No, it's just regular life now. But again, I think the why, a lot of folks they take it personal. And it's work. It's not personal. But someone asking you why, or can you explain this? That's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Now, after you tell them why and you explain it and they still don't want to do it, then that's another issue. But that's something totally different.
Yeah. I think that ties in perfectly with the example that you gave about, when you're sitting in that seat and you change seats and you move up, because I know when you're in that seat, you may not say it out loud, or you may not have the courage, depending on, your generation, but I'm sure you think of, you're like, well, why do they have me doing this? Why? Why did they say no? I know, and they think it, but this generation, like you said, they are used to giving feedback and giving input, that they say what, my generation used to think. They're saying it out loud now. So I think that is a good point that you said for, people that sat in that seat who used to maybe not say it out loud, to now be in those director roles. And now that they're, in a different position, they're like, what are you talking about? just do what I say. Don't talk back. So yeah, that's awesome.
I know, that was so good.
Yeah.
I want to transition a little bit because I want to know, I mean, you talk to, like you were saying, you talk to leaders, you talk to organizations, you talk to large businesses, you talk to students one-on-one. And so you're always giving like career advice and growth and leadership advice. So for you, what are your secrets? How do you develop personally on your own? Like, what are things that our audience should know about? If you are like the expert, how do you take care of you?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a great.
This is excellent, and I had to think about it because, I hate to say modest, but sometimes you just do stuff and you don't even. It's like a superpower. You don't even know you're doing it, but I've got a really good young man that works for me, and we have these discussions. And I'm kind of I mentor everybody, but we're kind of going back and forth. He always say, "Hey, doc, you gotta make sure you take care of yourself." And he checks on me. So a lot of things. What I do is I'm naturally an introvert. Sometimes when people meet me, they don't understand that because I get paid to talk. And it's a different animal. If I'm not getting paid to talk, and again, I'm not saying you guys are paying me, but I'm doing this. I'm quiet, so I'm introspective. So one of the things I do, and I've been doing it, I don't even know how many years. I journal. So I journal at least once a week, and I physically sit down with my pen and paper, and I write. And it calms me down. It slows me down. It also gives me an opportunity because, at work, I have a calm demeanor now. I've always been like this, but things bother me. But instead of me using some words I would have to apologize and take back, I can write whatever I want on paper. And it feels just as good. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. You're better. So I journal. I dabble in poetry, so I actually sit on my laptop and I write, and I'll throw some verses together. I don't write as much poetry as I used to, but I still do. I have this goal one day to drop my own poetry book, so that could be coming. I journal. Excuse me. I do my blog. I got to plug myself. I do the Walk into the Future blog. I still travel, not as much as I did pre-COVID. I'll do weekend trips. I'll do beach trips. Most of the stuff in my blog is something that happened to me in my life. I'll go ahead and let y'all know I will write about what I'm doing right now at some point. I started the draft of it and I got my quotes ready. So after I finish, probably the weekend, I'll write that and put it out. I sit on the beach when I can. And I was talking before we got on. I call myself a running tourist. I race. Daryl, we met. I got into running late, and I actually am a runner now. I compete with folks. I got times in my head. I got mileage. So I blog. I write poetry. I do my journal. I run as my therapy. And then I help folks other times, but when I'm not at work, I really know how to relax. I love to read. My goal for 2021 is to do 2 books a month. I'm halfway through my second book. And again, my guy from work gave me another book. So I already got my 2 picked out for February. So we'll see how well I do on that.
That's awesome. You gave yourself a plug, but I'm going to follow up and do it again. The blog. I'm telling you, if you are listening to the sound of my voice right now, we're going to put the information in the show notes. Go and follow the blog. It's like you said, when I'm reading through those, and yes, I read them when I get them every week in my email, I read them. And that's kind of how I keep up with what you have going on too, because you tie in like personal life. But one of the things that I appreciate is that there's always a learning experience in what you're encountering in your daily personal lives. And you just have to look for that silver lining, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. Another thing that I appreciate that you do in the blog, another plug, is that while you have vast knowledge and a lot of experience and expertise, like you don't mind like sharing resources. And I appreciate that too, because as I'm going through and I'm reading a lot of times, I'm reading about you and some of your experiences and some of the lessons learned, but then you'll also share resources of other people that you follow, and you do it on LinkedIn as well. Like that's where I go. I'm like, all right, let me see what messages we posted, and I'm able to, kind of get different perspectives. So I do appreciate that. So please go follow the blog, and we'll add all the information in the show notes.
And I love that. Like, you and I probably could not be more different from like
yes.
identities to upbringing, but I was reading the blog and I found places that I could connect with you. And I love that as a reader because I'm like, oh, this man uses running tourism. I do that. Like I've always done that. If I get to a new city, not right now because we're not really traveling, but if I get to a new city and we're there for a conference or we're there just to vacation, I go run mainly because I'm directionally challenged. So it helps me, but also that's my way of like getting to see the city. So I love that you said that. I'm like, oh, I know exactly what he's talking about. Like I have this connection with you.
Yeah. And it is like the coolest thing once you realize, because they're going to block the city off and you can take as much time as you want to kind of look around. And it's the most amazing thing. And I appreciate y'all reading and following. Now, I used to be conscious of like, I wonder if anybody's reading. And I'm just going to tell you, I just said the heck with it. I'm writing this for me. And if y'all read it, you read it. If not, so be it. But my coolest, I say y'all aren't cool. My coolest reader is my 80-year-old 10th grade typing teacher. She texts me to this day. I read what you put. She follows my blog. And I'm just like, she texts me. So it's like the coolest thing ever. She taught me how to type, which is how I do it. So I type fairly well for anybody, but my thoughts go, I think faster than I can write. So typing helps me, but she taught me how to type and she follows the blog. It's like the coolest thing.
Wow.
That's so cool.
And I'll tell you this, people follow and people read. We've learned this.
Yeah.
Like they do. And
they don't react
the people
to
behind the screens who are doing the typing, or even us in the podcast, like obviously we get an opportunity to go back and kind of see the download. So we get to gauge it a little bit. Right. And I'll tell you, people are reading, people are following.
We have hard times where we're like, is anybody listening to us? Like, is this making a difference for anybody? But then we do get feedback, and it's probably the same with you. We're like what you said, we're like, if we just do this for us, because we love it and it makes a difference for us, hopefully it's making a difference for at least one other person. And that's our goal, is like, if we can reach one person, that's what we want. And so we get confirmation that like there's probably more people reading or listening or doing whatever than you might think there is.
Well, and I'm smiling like a little kid because I know they are, but I think if I sat down, when as Darryl said, if I sat down and tried to create a piece, like how many people, I don't write to get people, I write to put my voice down. And what I find is people, because they're like, it sounds just like you're talking. I'm like, that's how I write. That's exactly how I write. And that's the goal.
Yep.
Like I said, when I'm reading it, like it's like, that's how I keep up. It's like I'm following you. It's like, you just kind of like, oh, guess what? Like I went over here and did this and ran here. And while I was there, I visited here and I had a chance to talk to this person. I'm just like, oh, okay. And then it's like, and this is what I realized. And then you drop that little nugget in there. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Well, read tomorrow.
Okay. Definitely.
Speaking of the blog, there was an article that you wrote that I thought was very pertinent to what we're all going through right now. And that is leading from a distance. And I think it's one of the hardest things. You are a supervisor. I am about to be I'm hiring right now. So I'm about to be a supervisor. And I'm like, oh man, I hope I can lead this person. I don't know, I know you lead an entire team. So talk to us about your tips about leading from a distance. What does that look like? And what are best practices?
I think a lot of it is going back to just a leadership model. Who are you and what do you follow? And I say authentic leadership because it does encompass a lot of the other transactional, transformational. You just kind of fit it. But To answer your question on what it looks like, it's a lot of communication. I currently have 11 folks on my staff on 5 campuses. And with the good thing about COVID is the folks on the other campus, when they used to have to come on for our staff meetings, we do teams now. So I'm able to communicate with them more because they can see me if they need to. I just don't physically go to them. So to answer your question is, it takes a lot of communication. It takes a lot of patience because something that may be obvious to you won't be obvious to that person because you can't see them and you don't get that body language. But as far as passing information, you have to over communicate. As far as giving information, as far as training, I get my folks to do a lot of, we call it SkillSoft training, but we have training portals at the school. So I kind of go through and identify things that we need. We did, and I never thought I could do this when I first got here. Like, team building had to be touching people. No, you can actually do team building using your computer. And it works because you get, again, input from folks. We've done Myers-Briggs training for team building on here, just the communication style. So I recommend that for in-person teams and virtual, because as a leader, you want to know how people want to be communicated to. So that's what the Myers-Briggs will show you, their specific communication style. We did the energy bus. I had never heard of that, but one of my folks brought me, because I read books. Hey, read this book. And it was about the 10 rules of being on our bus. And one of the rules is no energy vampires allowed. So that's the only rule from that book. I have it plastered on my wall. And I had it over here, but the energy vampires weren't reading it. So I put it on the other side of the wall at the chair that they have to sit in. So when they start draining my energy, like, hey, right there. So, and that's the true, it's in my office. I'll take a picture and send it to you tomorrow. But over communicate, you can do your team building, ask them how they're doing, ask them what they need. And don't be afraid to kind of let them turn the computer off. I don't check up on folks, and I could, hey, log in, but I don't do I know some people who do like, you got to do a Google Doc and tell me when you came in. I don't do that. I wouldn't want anybody doing that to me. And if I got to do that, I don't need you. I think people appreciate that. So it's a lot of different things, but you kind of go by feel and how those people react to you and how you need to treat them. Not everybody gets treated the same, just like, in person, but it's a lot of communication. It's a lot of work. I will tell you, I'm probably more exhausted with the remoteness of the team. On the main campus where I'm at, all of my folks are back in the office. Fingers crossed, but I still have the other branch campuses and I give them leadership on the computer, and it seems to work. And I'm not afraid to pick up the phone when I need to, and they seem to like conversations that way as well. So I do talk to them about things other than business. So I don't always need something from, hey, how are you doing? What are you doing this weekend? They like to hear about my running as well. So I kind of, you share different things, but just over communicate seems to be working.
Something jumped out at me just now when you were giving that response. And it's something that I don't do, and I actually think I am gonna incorporate. Like, usually when I check in, it's like, hey, how are you doing? But the second part to that, what you said is, what do you need? I don't never ask anybody what they need, because I already think I know what they need, and I'm gonna share that with them. And
it goes back, with the leadership of just, and it's one of the aspects is relational transparency. So yeah, I'm the supervisor. Everybody understands that, but I don't always have to ask you for stuff. And again, we don't have to be friends or go out to drink, which I don't do with people that work with me, but I do talk to them about stuff other than work. Hey, what's going on? Hey, did you get your boat fixed? And I think sometimes in this environment, we always on a rush to get things done where we think it's all business. It doesn't have to be. But if you show that caring about them as a person, they'll do more for you. But if you only talk to them when you need stuff, they're gonna shut down at some point or only give you what you ask for. So yeah, don't forget the human side.
I think COVID changed that though, and working like on the computer because you want to jump on. Well, I'm not going to speak for everyone. I'm going to speak for me, and I'm adapting and adjusting, and I'm a lot better at it now. But I used to want to jump on. And I'm like, all right, hey, things are shifting. We have to, pivot. And I'm like, hey, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to adjust. And then I'm like, all right, anybody got any questions? Okay, bye. But I think another approach is exactly what you said. Hey, how's everyone doing today? Tell me, what do you need from me so that you can, do your job better? And then obviously that personal side to it as well always helps. So I tell you, COVID computer, like you just want to jump on and get it done so you can jump back off.
Yeah,
it is, but I do a lot of reading, and one of the guys I follow, Rick Goodman, he's a consultant, he's a speaker, and I read an article that he put out, and I'll tell you, try this. Before you jump in and start talking, ask your team individually, what did you do? What did you do to win today? What win did you have? And let them talk. You would be amazed. Your meetings are going to go a lot better because now you get to let them tell you what they did and they're proud of. And, you can still get the work, but I would say slow down. And not every time you have to hit them with work, especially because it is a lot of pressure with COVID. A lot of people, you have family issues, you got health issues. Let them talk about something they're proud of. Let them talk about a win. And they'll tell you everything, and then you bought yourself another month of goodwill.
Noted.
it's true. Yeah.
Check.
Noted. I want to transition again, and we as in like the United States of America, we are just in this period of social and racial unrest. And so I'm curious from your standpoint, both as a Black man and as a leader, how are you handling and or addressing social and racial unrest in our country?
Thank you. I'm hesitating a little bit, and I write about it. I didn't think I would get into. I was hoping it wasn't gonna be this bad, but I didn't think I would have a voice or anything to say. But what I do is I do write about it now. When I first started the blog, it was just, hey, I'm going to have fun. It's like, wait a minute, I have a voice now, and I got somewhat of an audience. I may need to say something. I really knew I needed to say something when I have friends all over, and I have, again, all over, but I had friends text me like, hey, I heard you say this before, but I didn't really know it was that bad. And what the issue was is when we saw George Floyd, I got text and it was like, hey, how can I be an ally? It's like, well, I've been waiting for you to do this, but it took that. So I don't hold that against my people because I love them to death. But now I got to think like, what can I do? And I was like, I don't know. So I started writing and I started researching. So them asking me what they should do or what they can do made me smarter. So I started researching pretty much stuff that was currently happening. I had to voice it. I'll go ahead and say I put America on trial twice in my blog, and it's still guilty, guilty, guilty. I don't necessarily know when it's going to be not guilty because it's been like this for years. But I went back and did research. I've been to Rosewood. It wasn't that significant then, but now it's like, okay, this is nothing but another Rosewood. The Tulsa. I got introduced to Black Wall Street at FSU. BSU invited me to do a speaking opportunity, and if their thing was let's recreate Black Wall Street, I didn't even know what it was. I'm like, I'm here to talk to y'all, and y'all telling me. So I had to get smart. So with everything that's going on, I write about it now. I'm not afraid to voice my opinion. I'm not necessarily know if I would. I was just hesitant to talk, but I think with everything that's happened, and I got friends texting me, so I'm their teacher. So a lot of things that I write about is to make sure my friends are comfortable because they were worried about me. And, I'm not anywhere close to that. But again, I am a Black man and anything can happen. I've got an article. I write a lot of stuff. I got an article that comes out that shows why I dress the way I dress when I go running. I pretty much look like a neon Christmas tree. It's on purpose because I don't want anybody to see me running through the neighborhood and not realize, oh, he's actually exercising. I don't need any confusion. My outfits don't match, but they're really loud. I got orange and yellow, but I got a headband. That's on purpose. To answer your question, I make sure I'm noticed where I'm at. I have a light on me. I wave at everyone because I don't want to be that menacing black guy running through their neighborhood. And I do that on purpose. It's exhausting, but I rather do that than to have some issues. But I don't push it at work as much. And what I'm saying is I after the marches over the summer after George Floyd, I went to work and said, hey, what are we going to say? And I think my folks were hesitant. They weren't going to say anything. I was like, nope, we're going to say something. You got to put a statement out. You have to do something. And it took a while, but it came out. And I was like, okay, I don't care if you felt forced to do it. You had to do it because if you can't do that, then I can't be here. So I'm that comfortable in life. And again, I know everybody's not where I can kind of pick and choose, but I needed something to be said. And I think with the unrest that came out is, it gave me a voice that I didn't really know I had or wanted, but it's needed, not just for me, but for my family and my friends. And, I get comments from folks in different countries, and they're like, hey, man, keep doing it. So I would like to stop writing about social unrest, but the more it happens, the more I'm going to write. So I have a voice now.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
And that actually reminded me, we were just the other week, we were like, all right, we got to take a break from work because we've been working all day in front of computers. And so we went to just we like to check out construction, like subdivisions under construction. And so there was one really close to us. So we hopped in the car, took the 5-minute drive over, and we're walking around. And I don't remember what it was that you said, but you said, I'm not doing that in here. This isn't a Ahmaud Arbery situation. And I was like,
I'll tell you what she said.
I can't remember what it
Let me tell you what she said, Calvin, because I remember.
Okay.
She said, hey, this house right here, they don't have everything up. Let's just go walk in and look at the floor plan. She asked me to walk into a house under construction.
It was under
to look at a floor plan.
See?
And in a subdivision that they were building.
He checks me and I'm like, oh my God, like, hello, privilege, right? And so we have to check. He's got the check on me. But that it reminded me of that, of like, there is definitely clear and present danger, and so I'm glad that you shared that. I think that it's been both a very difficult year of reckoning and unrest. And at the same time, I think that there is also more education. Like you said, you're writing about it in your blog. And that is, I read a couple of the articles that you had on, like, yes, writing, and so there's lots more education happening. And I think that I just applaud you for writing about it.
I would say thank you. I guess, I'll come down a level. The really sad part about it is I can write something every day. Which is really sad, but if it's what's needed, then I'll keep doing it. And hopefully we can slow it down, but something pops up. I have a voice, and I say I have like a library of articles. So I write articles. So some of the stuff that you may read 2 weeks from now, I wrote in September. But when something happens that's urgent, I move it up. So I can stay current. I had to show patience because after January 6th happened, I told my guy at work, like I said, I only have one male in my office. When I say the guy, it's the same guy. He said, hey, you gonna write about that, Doc? I said, man, I'm trying not to. And he kept, hey man, you gotta write it. And he's a white man, and he's like, you gotta write it. So this was like Wednesday, Thursday, he badgered me. On Saturday, I wrote it. And, I went and drafted it up. But, if something is that heavy on my heart, I'll move it up in the rotation. If not, I'll just kind of let it fall back where it's supposed to fall back. But we'll see. If you see something current, then I had to write it again. So we'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah. Awesome. This conversation has been great.
I
I feel
know.
like we could just keep talking.
I have so many questions. We could keep talking all that, but we won't.
No, what we'll do is we'll have to bring him back for another episode.
If you're game.
Yeah.
Well, I take a lot of pride because one of my guys in Orlando, I'm his only 3-time repeater. So hey, I'm
game on. Game on.
I've got another one. I did Intern Pursuits. She's coming out. I've been on hers 3 or 4 times. I should be coming out with her in a couple of weeks. So I get asked back, so I don't know why. Y'all don't know what I'm doing.
Good.
So what we're gonna do to wrap up is to give you an opportunity to share or express any parting words, and then also tell everyone where they can find you. Give them your blog information. If you're on social media, share that action with them. So any parting words and where and how people can find you.
I would say my parting words, I like to quote Colin Powell. And again, one of his favorite things is don't put your ego so close to your position that when your position goes, your ego goes with it. So it ain't personal, it's business sometimes. And that's how I look at a lot of things in life. If it didn't kill you, you can recover from it. I would say proudly, I'm probably the only community college flunky, dropout, whatever you want to call me, that has a PhD. And I'm proud of that fact. I guess that's my parting shot. You can be whatever you want to be. If you think it, you can get it done. And I'm from such a small town that I'm not smart enough to realize no was an option. I just kept doing. Nobody ever told me no. And it's always helped me kind of get where I want to go. So I can dream big and think big. And it helps me out. So I live a life like I want to live it. I walk into the future every day. So to answer your question, I am at altogetherwalkintothefuture.blog. I post every Thursday, and I don't even know if you notice this. It's at 11:08 a.m. every time. That's on purpose. You probably didn't notice that, but I'm going to go ahead.
I get the alerts. I get all the alerts. I'm going to go back and see.
It's consistent. I'm a Virgo. I have to do everything at the same time. On LinkedIn is probably the best way to find me. I am Calvin Williams. I'm sure there are other ones, but it's L_Calvin Williams on LinkedIn. I put a lot of stuff out there. I like a lot of stuff. I do write my own. I write articles there. I do a lot of posts. That's my personal stuff, and also with school. I'm on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook. I will tell you, if you like running tours pictures or beach pictures, I am L_Calvin Williams on Instagram. A lot of the things you'll see is I take a lot of sunset pictures, a lot of beach pictures, and when I travel, I do. And I have a new camera. I just got to break it in. I actually have a zoom lens. So I can get even better pictures. I need to just break that in and get away from my phone. But no Facebook for me. I'm not on Twitter. My blog, Instagram, LinkedIn. And then if you guys you can give them my email if anybody's looking for me. But LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to connect with me if you're looking for a speaker. I can do that either through Zoom or I'm able to travel. I'm hoping to get back down to the tribe and do some more leadership training with them very soon.
Awesome. We appreciate it. And everything that he just mentioned, if you look down in our show notes, it's all down there so that you don't have to search. You can literally just click the link and hit subscribe or hit follow. So if you heard all of those and you couldn't jot them down, just go to the show notes and click the link.
Yep.
Well, this has been awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're going to have to schedule and get you back so that we can continue this conversation.
Yeah. That's not a problem. I told you I got you covered. Whenever you need me, I'm there. I told you that from day one. I don't agree with everything you say, and I told you that from day one.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we all need people like that in our lives. And like I said, for people who are like me, take that chance and reach out and get yourself a mentor, because it is beneficial and it definitely helps. So
yeah.
All right. Well, until the next time.
Bye.
Peace.
Thank you.
All right.